My definition of the divine masculine. I want to be all that is.
Yes.
And that is the lover, warrior, magician, and king.
Did you want to take your shirt off?
We first might want to explain why we all of a sudden have no shirts.
Well, okay.
Hi, I'm Layla Martin. I'm your host of This Tantric Life. This podcast is for you to learn about and be able to use the incredibly powerful system of Tantra in your life. I have been teaching and studying classical and neo-Tantra for over 20 years. And when you apply that to sex, love, and relationships, as I love to do, you end up having conscious relationships, the deepest, most epic and magical sex, and the kind of intimacy that you get to be grateful for on your deathbed. And I want you to have your own magical journey in your own way that takes you from wherever you are now to the most outrageous and true and beautiful expression of sex, love, and relationships that is available to you. In this podcast, we're going to be talking about the divine masculine. Now, even for me, it's a little hard to give a full definition of divine masculine. And one of the things that I found is that men who want to align with masculine expression usually feel more whole when they have a direct connection to that energy of masculinity in themselves. And that wholeness, as you'll see me and Aubrey talk about, comes from letting cock, heart, third eye, mind all be aligned. That as a man, when you have your sexuality and your primal impulses, your love and your heart and your joy and your spiritual power and your visionary power all in alignment, and you are resonating with this masculine archetype, there's something that usually feels super whole and beautiful for men. The more that I have tapped into what real masculinity is, the more I can let go of all the pain that men have caused me, my daddy issues, what I've been told about the patriarchy, what I've been told about men generally, and actually go straight to what men can be.
I'm here with Aubrey Marcus, who has written such incredible books. He has the Aubrey Marcus Podcast, which I really took to be this groundbreaking podcast. Aubrey Marcus is an innovator. He is the founder of Onnit, and he has created so many things, Fit for Service, all of his different productions that I've ever been a party to that absolutely change people's lives. He is channeling something that I wish all men knew how to get in touch with in themselves. From the minute I met him, I was like, holy shit. Because to me, he was emblematic of a form and expression of the masculine that had been deconditioned of what the masculine can be like when they're removed from their own power. So I'm so honored to have him here with us, speaking on the topic of the divine masculine. So we're also going to dive in today to this really incredible healing experience that Aubrey and Vylana do. It used to be top secret. He's starting to share about it more and more. It's called the God Bomb. We're going to tell you all about it and how it literally shifted me from choosing safe men that I didn't feel challenged by at all to being ready to say yes to a full alpha king. It was a mind-blowing transformation, and I can't wait to share with you how that happened and our journey with that. Yeah. And what I'd love to start with first is an introduction and discussion into the divine masculine and what that is, because for me, as I said, you are a man who embodies so much of what any man can be, but you have taken yourself on a journey that has somehow gotten you to this depth of expression that's just like, yes, a man who has remembered. And so I'm so curious if you could start off talking about that journey of your own manhood. What was challenging for you when you were younger? Where did you feel lost? What was beautiful? And what took you to this expression of authentic masculinity? And please, if you will, talk about sex.
Well, thank you for that unbelievable introduction. Actually, that was perhaps the finest introduction I felt it deeply. I feel very seen by you and very appreciated by you. And it's just super meaningful to receive that. So I just want to reflect that first. So to get into your question, my dad and my mom, they divorced when I was 2 years old. And my mom at that time started a relationship with my stepfather, who was my dad's bodyguard, actually, at that period. So my dad was an intellectual man, first and foremost. He was a pioneer in futures trading and commodities trading, and he carved his own destiny from nothing, from literal nothing, by trying to speculate and figure out what these commodities markets would do, whether it was soybeans or gold or silver or different currencies. He was always on the cutting edge of using his intellect to decipher what the trends in the macro might be. And so that was the lineage of a philosopher, a psychologist, a thinker. We'd play chess together. We understood that. He had a strong passion for, sorry about that. I don't know what's going on with my voice.
We commingled his kombucha and a highball, which is just a hippie caffeinated beverage, not some horrible drug concoction.
Yeah.
And so anyways, maybe we're just meant to drink it.
I was meant to drink it. I needed another sip. So picking up, my father represented this intellectual giant, and he was passionate about athletics, but it wasn't it wasn't where he was the most comfortable, let's say, in his own physicality, in his own vital expression of masculinity. My stepfather, on the other hand, he was a college wrestler. He was in the military. He was a SWAT team squad leader. He's built like a silverback gorilla. So I had two models of men. Mm. I had my father, who was very sensitive, very intellectual, and he had his challenges. He had his issues with anger. He had different things. My stepfather, a little bit more disconnected from that spirit, intellect, kind of that aspect of the masculine, but really fully, vitally engaged. I mean, he was there. If it was time to fuck or time to fight, you knew like my stepdad was the one to call. And he's great at telling stories, great at playing with kids. He's like a bear. Like a bear in the wild, So I had two really good models of masculinity growing up. And I think between the contrast of both of those, I was able to kind of forge my own way. And I really, a lot of times people think of a divorce as something like, oh, this is harmful to a child. Not for me, because it gave me two distinct models of manhood that I was ultimately able to step forward into. But that's just the launch pad, right? And then eventually it has to evolve and evolve. And one of the other consistent through lines is the solidity of my relationship with my mother. My mother just truly loved me unconditionally, like to an unbelievable extent. I mean, if you talk about a person who's like a saint, you talk about my mom, like, is this even real? And it's real. And so this deep reverence, and that came from my grandmother too. I had that same type of relationship with my grandmother. So this deep reverence for the feminine and always feeling loved and always feeling cared for on the feminine side. And then having some really interesting, powerful models on the masculine side, and then finding my own way in between.
So I'm curious what you think is so challenging for a lot of men today. Why it can be so hard for them to step into their own version of empowered masculinity. And I'll share a little bit of what's behind this question for me, which is I got raised in the era of finally looking around and being like, whoa, like men control all the resources and all the religions, or at least the ones I'm being told about right now. And they, have all this power in society, and they're the CEOs and the political leaders and all of that. So there was this kind of dawning awakening of like, oh, the world was made for you, right? So in my own feminist female awakening, right, it's all about reclamation of my power, of what's been lost, of overturning sexual harassment and rape culture and perfectionism and internalized self-hatred. And in doing all of that and developing a level of compassion for myself and the journey of what it can be to be a woman on this planet and not be a victim to all of that, but actually use that as a launch pad to be more powerful than you ever could have been without that trauma, as like almost like a friction to push against to chisel your soul and your expression. And that can be the gift of it. But it took a long time to actually look at where men are at and say, actually, we both forgot our own divinity. Like in this period of what to me is, thousands of years of human society existing predominantly from trauma consciousness, so many men had to dehumanize themselves and everyone else to succeed in such a brutal world. And for me, like nobody thrives under that consciousness. And as much as I looked around and said, wow, women forgot they were goddesses, I can now look and see men have equally forgotten they were gods, right? Holding societal power doesn't make you aware of your own deep divinity or the things that give you a true sense of power, right? And so there's this struggle that I see so many men in right now, because we're going to talk about divine masculine. What is that? What can that be? But what I'm seeing is like men used to be warriors, right? They used to be protectors. They used to have all of these experiences, being so much in nature, being so connected to their bodies. And there's so much going on right now that is so challenging. And you are such an icon to so many men. What do you see that they struggle with? Like, why is it hard for men to own their multidimensional masculinity the way that you do?
Well, it's evolving, thankfully, right now. I'm seeing a lot of progress in this. But what I saw early on, I took the moniker warrior poet, because what I really saw is people were either warriors or they were poets. And that's a very loose term of an archetype. So the warrior can often be very tough, very armored. Imagine an armored knight. And so they're always ready for war. Every single thing that they see is a potential threat or something to be conquered. It's like the old saying, if you're a hammer, everything is a nail, right? So like the warrior archetype can be very, very hard and very like, it has clear direction sometimes, but also sometimes it's fighting battles that are, they're charging against windmills, to use the Don Quixote analogy of like, what are you even fighting anymore? Like what's going on here? So I saw a lot of that, and it comes in machoism and this kind of like feeling of like strength and power in the physical form, and power in the boardroom. That's all that matters. But it was missing the heart and the softness and the poet. And then so I also saw those type of men who were just like in their poetic rapture and could actually tune in and listen and were in touch with their feelings and would cry at something beautiful or something sad, and could actually access the full gamut, the entire birthright of human emotion. But there were very few that crossed over and were warrior poets. And to me, I was like, that's what I want to be. And then I started finding examples of this throughout history. So take someone like Socrates, great philosopher. Everybody knows about Socrates as a philosopher. Probably a lot of people think of him as a frail man just thinking in his head. When you hear the stories told by Alcibiades in the histories, Socrates was a ferocious warrior, ferocious. And there's tales of him jumping in front of the line to protect his comrades in battle. And then they would go back to the fire and he would talk philosophy. So there was a well-rounded example from history in Miyamoto Musashi, the greatest swordsman of all time, something like 100 duels to the death. Sometimes he didn't even bring a sword. He would just row his rowboat and take his oar off the boat and then fight to the death with an oar and win. I mean, you talk about a swordsman of that capacity. What else was he doing? He was writing. He was practicing calligraphy. He was actually in touch with this artistic flow of the muse. So I started seeing historical examples and saying like, I want to be that. I want to be absolutely all of it. And so that became this guiding principle for me to unlock both sides. How ferocious can I be? How much can I be this vital werewolf of a man just ready to snarl on top of a speaker somewhere, or growl in the bedroom in passionate, lustful, vital sex? Or can I really just drop in and listen on a fast in a mountain doing plant medicine, or with a partner in the long hours as I'm holding them moving through something? Both were equally valued for me because I wanted to round out the entirety of the expression of what it meant to be a man.
So it's coming to me as you say this that I've been feeling. Like I was talking to my partner last night, and we're like in love with the expression of noob face, because it's like raw and sexual and primal, but like such deep poetic heart and such deep like cosmic activation. And one of the things that I really felt that broke the feminine was the deep isolation and separation of their expression. So you get to be, under this traumatic culture that's existed for a while now. Like you get to be a whore, and a slut and someone that like men really want to sexually use. And you'll also be at the bottom rung of society, right? You can be a mistress and sexually fulfilled, but like you're going to be kept away. And you can be a wife, an angel, like a good girl, right? So heart. And then typically what happened with women was if you're spiritual, you're a witch. You live in the woods by yourself. No man wants you. You're scary as shit. You have like, and you eat children. So it's crazy because women got socialized basically to be of the heart. And should you dare to wander outside of your heart-centered service to everyone and compassion for everyone, you'll be a whore that no one wants and you'll eventually be used and left alone. Or you'll be, a spiritual witch and you'll either get killed or, you'll be abandoned by society. So there's all this like fear in becoming whole. And so a big part of my work with the feminine is what does it look like if you realize that all of that was a lie and that reclaiming that whorish slut primal wild actually lights you the fuck up and gives you back your power and allows you to make love to the man in the way that you want to. You get to keep your heart at the same time. They never had to be separated. And you are just as wise and spiritual as anyone else on this planet, right? What does it look like to come back to wholeness?
So if you want to be taking Tantra into your everyday life, I've created this amazing training called Virtual Pleasure School. It's 4 one-hour workshops that train you in things like breast massage, how to have an ecstatic orgasm, how to use your sexual energy to go into transcendental sexual states, and how to unlock cervical orgasms. So I take you step by step through the theory of why each of these things is powerful, why it works, the Tantra and the Taoist wisdom behind it. And then you actually get a 10 to 20 minute practice where you can make it real. Virtual Pleasure School is designed to teach you the most powerful pleasure practices that will revolutionize your sex life. You can get started right away. Once you learn these practices, they become your own. You can use them for a lifetime of sexual bliss and joy and magic and ecstasy. It's totally free. You can get it by heading over to my website, laylamartin.com/VPS. So V for violin, P for Peter Pan, even though we don't really want those, and S for salamander. So VPS for Virtual Pleasure School. It's laylamartin.com/VPS, or you can just find the link down below in the show notes. If you want to activate and turn on your pleasure, I will see you there in Virtual Pleasure School.
And I've been reflecting on, and you just articulated it so beautifully, that men got given that same separated mentality in their own way, and that they've been fed as many lies about sexuality, like almost like I'd love to hear you actually speak more to this, but there's a version of male sexuality that's very disconnected, right? And like they get conditioned into your sexuality has to be disconnected and separate from all these other areas and parts of you. Like if you're going to fuck, you're going to do it in your head fantasizing, right? So your sexuality is disconnected. You probably shouldn't be in your heart because that's actually vulnerable and scary. And, you're not going to be respected if you open into that. Or you can be like one of those crazy artists who's like, a poet. And you can definitely be in your head. Like maybe that was the safe place for a man. But like, unless you're a Christian priest or something like that, and you've agreed to celibacy for the rest of your life, like, really, how dare you take a bunch of psychedelics and know yourself as God? So it's like the masculine has been fed so much internal separation as well. Right? So much do not be whole, but no one would ever say that to you because you'd figure it out, right? Don't be whole is a message that you can follow back to wholeness. So instead, it's all these other messages that fracture us and we forget our own power. And I think without ever knowing it, you've just been a man who, to me, I was like, that's a whole man, And that shouldn't be so rare. To come across whole men. And I wish like sometimes when women are like, where are all the kings, right? There's this slightly patronizing vibe to it. I think a better question would be, why have men forgotten their wholeness? And what can we do so that they can find their power again?
Yeah. I mean, this is reclamation and reintegration. I mean, part of what you were talking about for the feminine, if you read a Kabbalist interpretation of the story of Genesis, one way to look at it from a mystical perspective that was shared with me by Rabbi Mark Gaffney is Lilith was exiled from the garden. Lilith was Adam's first lover, but she wanted things to be equal. And actually in the text, she says she wanted to also be on top. So that might even refer to the actual act of sexuality itself. Like, I want to ride you. I want to feel this passionate fuck. And Adam's like, no. I want someone submissive, and I want the good wife. And she's like, fuck that. I'm out of here. I'm going to go fuck a demon.
Yeah.
Because when I fuck that demon, then at that point, I'm going to get all of my sexual needs met.
Satan's a way better lover than a man who wants you to act like a swimming pool when you're actually an ocean, you know?
So in that, and it was like, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And then so that aspect of feminine sexuality has been exiled, but it's time to bring that back into the garden. So just mad blessings and praise for you for helping to reintegrate that primal desire to actually feel like equals in the bedroom and any boardroom and anywhere, the bedroom modeling the entire world, and allow that primal expression to kind of come through and be welcomed back in the garden. So that's just what I want to say, like on that side. Now, switching over to the masculine side, I think you can see in the most recent example, right? There was the 1960s, 1970s, where there was this first psychedelic renaissance that really hit. And there was a movement of the hawks and the doves, right? There, you were either a hippie and you were very in touch with your feelings, and perhaps you didn't really take that much attention to your body as far as strength and as far as wellness there. And then, or you were a hawk, and the hawk was like, let's go to war. Let's get stronger, tougher. And so I think there was a split in the male psyche, and I think it existed before that as well. But I look at that as kind of a pivotal point for most of the people that are alive, where it really exacerbated this. Oh, you're a hippie. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how many times I was called a hippie, and still occasionally sometimes. And I'm like, really?
Because you're like not a hippie.
Right? Like, really? Like, let's go.
I've seen your closet.
Right.
Man's got Gucci.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting, but I think people decided they had to be on one team or the other team.
Yeah.
And that really denies you the wholeness. Now, again, going back to the Genesis, like lineage roots, King Solomon was referred to as the king to whom wholeness belongs. Mm-hmm. He had fully integrated his sexuality, and whether the 1,000 wives were metaphor or whether they were actual is up for definite interpretation. But fundamentally, he was enraptured and in love with the goddess, which modeled Shekinah, the divine goddess, the true queen of all creation, and found that modeled in the actual feminine that he found in existence. So there was a real balance in his interpretation. Yes, he was a warrior. Yes, he was a king. Yes, he was all this, but yes, he had deep reverence for the feminine. Now, maybe it wasn't perfect, and I'm sure there's different texts, but the idea that translates through is wholeness is what we're looking for. And when you approach your own identity with fullness, wholeness, the place where the demon and the Buddha meet, where all your darkness and all your light, the angels get to play with horns on and with the full fire of who you are, that's where the magic really lies. It's not exiling any aspect of yourself. It's bringing it all home and saying, here I am. It's all of me. And anything you want to see, it's in me, whatever that is. But I'm going to be the totality of my expression, which expresses in wholeness. And that really allows your essence to kind of be present. And that to me is what makes a man when every single act, word, song, dance, kiss, it's the fullness of his presence and his essence that travels with him like a scent.
Yes. And I think I love that you referenced the sexual dynamic of two powerful beings meeting one another. And I feel like that can be very misunderstood because, again, we've been really brainwashed in our culture to think of a powerful woman as like a ball buster, right? Or because women have been socialized to believe if you want social power, you better not be sexual, right? Mm-hmm. Or you better not be too in your heart. You have to go be like a leader. And one of the things that I've found is that it takes a leap of faith as the feminine if you are in any way romantically involved with masculine men to trust that busting out of that good girl narrative of just be in your heart all the time, that you will be attractive to the masculine because we've been so heavily conditioned, and men have been conditioned. Like that's the version of femininity you want, right? Like now when you go back and watch like late 1990s movies, even like early 2000s movies, and like every girl is so dumb, like in like all of the media, and just like, you know, a perfect photoshopped image. And like, that's what femininity is. And none of them have their true own thoughts, their own like depth, right? It's amazing how quickly the world has changed in 20 years. But men were conditioned, like that's the kind of feminine you want. Women were conditioned, that's who you have to be wanted. And so it's this leap of courage, I think, that sexuality will still be there for you. Love will still be there for you, should you dare to break out of that box, right? And it's interesting because you talked about, you know, Solomon and this kind of root back into religion, right? And you come from Jewish lineage. I come from Catholic lineage. And in Catholic lineage, right, all versions of divine feminine got wiped. We got left a little bit with Mother Mary, right? So like that's the version of the feminine that that is deserving of God, that is deserving of spiritual power. And one of the things that's been so healing to me about the Tantric tradition is in the 10 Mahavidyas, it's like all aspects of Shakti. So like, yes, you get Kamala, so you get pleasure and beauty. You have Lakshmi, you know, youth and fertility and aliveness. You also have Tripura Sundari, so you have, you know, expression of, you know, real sensuality, real magnetism. We also have Dhumavati, who's like in her 80s and 90s and likes to be worshipped in graveyards by filth. And she wants her worshipers polluted to come to her in a dirty state. You know, you have Chinnamasta, who has enough spiritual power to cut off her own head and drink the blood pouring from her neck, like as she's holding her head, because she has that level of spiritual fierceness. And so it's like this embodiment of all of Shakti. It's not like you, as a power match, you become only power, only leadership. It's like you actually become this full-bodied expression of wholeness of the feminine, which is so multifaceted. And so I'd love if you could speak a little bit to like your own journey of maybe witnessing or becoming more available to like full spectrum feminine sexual expression and what that felt like for you.
I don't know particularly why but I was always attracted to that.
Yeah.
I think I had enough confidence in my own essence, and I wanted to drink the essence of my lovers.
Yeah.
Like I just wanted to devour and drink the essence of all of them. And that, of course, evolved over time as my capacity to know myself then opened up more of my desire to be able to hold and devour every aspect of the authentic feminine. Now, I think there's projected avatar versions of the masculine and feminine where you're projecting power, but it's actually very brittle and it's actually kind of impotent, the power that you're showing, because if it gets challenged, you get all bristled. That's not power.
Yeah.
You know, like when you're really in your own power, you know, and someone like pushes a little spot, even if it's a tender spot, you just kind of smile and go, okay, thanks for pushing that tender spot. Like, it's all right. Like, let me go into the inside and heal that, not put more armor on so I don't get poked a little bit. You know, it's like real solid power. And so even in my, you know, earliest formative relationship was with Caitlin, I wanted her to shine and I wanted her to just explode with the fullness of who she was. And I really feel that with all of the lovers that I've been with. And I think it's because that's what I want for myself. And then the more of somebody else that they're able to tap into, the more of that essence gets to come online. So it's like I'm a master perfumist and every different expression is a new little scent. So even that 80-year-old crone adds just a little bit of spice to this thing that becomes an even more intoxicating musk. And I'm saying, bring it, like bring it to me. This is heaven. Let me bathe in that essence, fragrance, experience of being with a woman. And that's, I think, the type of man that women, I mean, I don't know, but it seems to me that would be the type of man that women want, a man who wants that.
I can confirm that.
So if that's the type of man you want, then you have to actually show that to attract that type of man.
Yes.
And I often liken the analogy to you'll catch the fish depending on the bait that you use on the hook. So if you're baiting your hook with just the kind of superficial, you'll catch fish attracted to the superficial shiny, both directions.
Mm-hmm.
So if a man is baiting his hook with a big flashy watch and a Lamborghini that's gold plated or whatever you want to do, like, yeah, you might catch some fish, but what are they really attracted to?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you put the fullness of your expression out, even if you have the shiny watch, the Lamborghini, but it's like, oh yeah, that thing. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. Don't you think it's cool? But I don't care about it. Like, this is the fullness of who I am. That's what really matters. So it's not about being ascetic and denying yourself these other things or trying to dim the light. If you like fancy things, fucking great.
Totally.
Be in the authentic enjoyment of your fanciness. Like, but put out the full expression of yourself. And that way you'll find somebody who's attracted to the full expression of yourself.
Yes. And I've definitely experienced that to be true. Like, the more that I have grown into my authenticity and power and expression, it's amazing to be out in the world or be, working and hearing women talking all the time and we're the kings and there are no good men and all that. And honest to God, every weekend I meet magical kings who are incredible, who meditate, who do breath work, who do Wim Hof, who are in their power, who are in their sexuality, who are incredible men. So I do believe and do experience that it is true that when you are expressing that level of authenticity, you do attract that match and of any gender, right? And I would say that a lot of men in my experience are terrified of the full feminine. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious what you would say to a man.
Always have been.
Right. Like, what would you say to a man who's like, yo, I'd love to drink the musk of the full feminine and I'm also terrified and I am still kind of in old conditioned patterns of how I fuck, right? Like,
well, first of all, I would be like, that is amazing awareness, honesty, and vulnerability for you to admit that you're afraid of the feminine and the fullness, because most men in that position would say like, oh yeah, I don't like this thing, or I don't like this thing. And they wouldn't even acknowledge the truth.
Yeah.
Really looking inside and saying like, what am I really feeling? Am I really bothered by that expression, or am I actually scared?
Yes.
And so the willingness to go, yeah, I'm a little scared by this. And the awareness to say, I have these conditioned patterns and I don't know how to break out. If you have a man that's in that position, or if you are the man or you know one, amazing.
Yeah.
Because that is such an essential first step, because from there, that level of awareness, that forms the baseline. That's the foundation. Yeah. And that foundation then can be built on. And really what it comes to is you have to see the fullness of your own masculinity to be able to hold the fullness of someone's femininity.
Yes.
You have to know yourself as man in its totality to hold woman in her totality.
Yes.
And everything in between, all of the blends in this complex world that we have. Nonetheless, the polarities exist and you have to be in your fullness to be able to hold fullness. So then that work goes back inside. How do I access the fullness of myself so I can hold the fullness of another? And when you get to that point, then you just don't flinch when you see it. You're like, all right, like this is hot. Like, let's go.
Oh, hey there. I am stirring up a cup of my favorite elixir. So this is Sex Magic, and this is an incredible product from the sexy supplement company Mood. It's my company. We formulated this with an all-female team of scientists to be able to activate your eros. So it can help you feel tingly. It can bring more energy into your life, more creativity. And if you take it under the right circumstances, you can have better sex. So I love taking this before Sex Magic with my partner. I love taking it, honestly, when we get home from date night and I'm like, whoa, I ate too much chicken. How am I ever going to get in the mood? I also like taking it after after a long day of work when I'm also like, I don't even want to go to the dinner and eat the chicken. So got to drink this before we even eat the chicken, and then maybe afterwards to get in the mood. You know what I'm saying? And what it does is it just opens up my body. It opens up my heart. I feel tingly. I feel alive. Sometimes it helps me have a better orgasm. And it is sugar-free. It's sweetened with monk fruit. That beautiful purple color comes from beetroot and blueberries. And it is just this incredible mix of ingredients like shilajit and huperzine A and mucuna pruriens. So special. If you were feeling called to check it out, you can head over to shopmood.com. That's shopmood.com. And there's a special discount code for being part of this Tantric Life. It is this Tantric Life 15. So you're just going to enter that at checkout and you're going to get 15% off of your first order.
So, Aubrey, how does a man get to being unflinchable in the wholeness of himself?
My path has been multifaceted. And I think one of the things is you have to really test yourself. You have to know what's inside of you when things get hard. I remember I can talk about a couple of these moments that we're defining. There's countless amounts of them. One of them was at the tail end of a 4-sit ayahuasca journey with Don Howard down in Peru. And I got really sick. I got picked up a parasite there. I was already there for a week. We were doing Wachuma and then we were moving into ayahuasca. I picked up a parasite and my stomach was like really bothering me. I was getting weaker and weaker by the day. 3 ayahuasca sits, it was more and more challenging and miserable. I'm sweating. I'm curled up in a fetal position and I just don't think I can go on. I didn't really know what was going on with me then. Then the 4th sit comes around and I'm like, I just can't do it. I don't have the strength. I just can't do this anymore. And Don Howard comes around, and before I was able to tell him I can't do it, he just looks at me and he goes, the warrior's heart beats as one. And I was like, God, oh man, that's the perfect thing you could have said. If the heart beats as one, I got no choice. Like, all right, give me the cup, full cup.
Yeah.
And I remember I was lying there, I was curled down on the ground, and I just started to cry, like soft little tears, like pathetic tears. Not even like sobbing, but just the pathetic tears of somebody who'd given up. And I heard the voice of my grandmother who had passed at that point. And my grandmother was like, get up, Aubrey, get up. And I was like, I can't, Grandma, I can't get up. I can't get up. I'm not strong enough. I can't get up. And my grandma was like, get up, Aubrey, get up. And we went back and forth. And finally it's like, all right, Grandma, I'll get up. And then I get up and I find this strength within me and I look outside the doors of the Maloka and I can see all of my true enemies, fear and greed and ignorance and hate. And I see them all archetypally embodied outside of the Maloka. And I say like, this is why I always have to get up. I get up so that I can stand for what I truly believe in. And in that moment, I realized that I would always get up. That no matter how weak I was, no matter how tired I was, I found something out about myself that I'll stand up when I really want to give up. Yeah, granted, I got a little help from the divine feminine as channeled through my grandma who said, get up, Aubrey, and thank you for that.
Yeah.
Because I needed that in that point. But I knew that I would get up and I would stand. And so many times that has been repeated so that I trust myself. I trust that I can withstand whatever whipping winds and storms and freezes and whatever comes. I trust myself that the more pressure that's applied, the greater that I'll be when that comes out the other side. And so and then I test that again, like climbing frozen mountains with Wim Hof with no shirt on, where it's just sleet and snow. And actually, I remember seeing Wim Hof, he had ice spikes that didn't fit his shoes. So he had to take his ice spikes off. And he's a 60-some-year-old man scrambling up the mountain, slipping down, clawing his way up. And there was no way he was not going to climb that mountain with his brothers. And so you get this idea of I'm here, I am here, I am here. I know myself, I trust myself. So when you encounter potentially the intensity of the feminine, you don't wither and you don't go, am I going to be okay? You know you're going to be okay. It's like, all right, here's the storm. I can stand, I can be the mountain. I'm the mountain that's going to be here after 1,000,000 storms. So it's rage away, my darling, like rage away, like crack the lightning from your clouds and bring the winds and bring the rains and bring the thunder, and I'll be here. I'm the mountain. And like you start to know that about yourself, and it builds this solidity. And I think those type of initiations, however they may come, can build an internal strength.
Yeah. And I think that internal strength is the key, because a lot of the ways that the masculine gets challenged in default culture is get up because someone else told you to get up. And that actually, while it can look like a kind of strong masculine on the outside, it can produce, exactly as you said, a brittleness on the inside.
Yeah.
Right? It's finding like that I get up because I am that powerful, because I choose to, right? As opposed to because society told me I had to get up so I could have money
So I
or
could be a
success or,
man.
yeah, exactly, or fight or whatever it is, right? And so that it's a warrior training, but it's a warrior training of spirit and heart and truth.
Yeah.
And I wish more men
go
had
into
that.
a sweat lodge. Go
Yeah.
into a sweat lodge. Go into a properly run Temescal or a Nipi. There will be a point that you will be able to watch yourself, and you will watch how much courage you have. I was just in one recently that was led by my sister Waira, who's an incredible medicine woman and probably the toughest person I know, period, and most full of life and love and joy. And she sat me in the buffalo seat right in front of the fire. And I got to watch myself. I was real good for the first 2 rounds, but after the first 2 doors, I got to watch myself start to want to run away and start to want to cling for, go find the water as soon as possible. I got to stretch my legs and then drop back into prayer. And then to my left was a Sundance brother who'd been in many, 17 different Sundances, which is a very intense ritual of fasting and dry fasting and sauna and piercing. It's a wild ritual. And I just watched him just stoic as an oak. And it reminded me like, all right, like here's another opportunity for me to train myself. It's pitch dark in there. And it's funny because you'll watch yourself. At one point I made some like exasperated dramatic thing where I like wiped my head like, oh, and I'm like, why did you do that? Who are you playing? Who are you playing this character to? Are you trying to show this to your higher self to say, look, I'm really hot, And so you get to observe, and then I come back into my prayer and come back into my center, and so you get to play that. It's like massaging the dough.
Yeah.
Brittleness is the problem. Like you need to be able to massage the dough, and also have brothers who are willing to come at you. Like my best friends, we go at each other. And the best of my best friends, like my brother Aaron, we're at each other constantly. And then but the love there for each other and the celebration there is so strong because we're constantly rubbing up and like smashing against each other, finding any vulnerable points. If there's a little vulnerability, we'll keep poking it as if, and with love and playfulness, to be like, oh, this bothers you? Oh, this bothers you? How about I say it 3 more times? How about I say it 5 more times? How about I say it 10 more times in mixed company? You still gonna let that bother you?
I love men.
Yeah, it's like, it's part of this. It is part of the masculine way.
Yeah.
And the problem is very powerful men don't have anybody that'll do that.
Yeah.
Because they're brittle, they're fat. And somebody says that.
Yeah.
And it's like the tyrannical king.
Yeah.
So having peers and community,
Yes.
also huge in this process. So testing yourself and then having those people you trust that you can kind of bump up against and find all of the soft, vulnerable parts and say, not to hurt you, but to say, here's this thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you should look at that.
Yes. So I think one of the most insidious lies that society has been told and men have been told in their relationship to the feminine, right? And in their relationship to what often looks like a woman, but it can be the feminine in any gender, is a powerful woman will cut you down, control you, tell you how to be, hurt you. And so might as well actually pick whatever version for you is a weaker or smaller feminine, right? And what you're articulating and what I've always known that I wish more men knew, I wish more women knew this in themselves, is like the true, like a woman who knows herself as goddess. No one's perfect, right? You're still going to have all of your humanity, all of your conditioning, all of your stuff, but you know yourself. You can own the divine feminine in you. It's like, to meet her, you have to be the most powerful version of yourself, king, divine masculine. There's an initiation process that we do for each other. So it's actually a path of power for both. It's not a path where one controls the other. It's not a path where one outshines the other. It's like with true divine masculine and feminine, like, I want your power as much as I want my own. I want your heart. I want your truth. I want you to be yourself more than I want you to give me anything that's false. And so the gift of the true divine feminine, right? Same as the gift of the weather, same as the gift of the divine feminine in an ayahuasca ceremony. She's challenging you. She's initiating you. She's giving you the things that are difficult, but so you can remember the truth and power of what you are. And to me, that is what a good, true, powerful, integrated woman will do. And we have forgotten that in our society. We've turned her into the witch, or only the witch, only the dominatrix, only the ball buster, right? And we've forgotten what that woman can actually be to a man and what she can be to a man in sexuality, in sacred union, to his heart. It's one of the most beautiful things that exist, that level of initiation, and our society forgot it. So it's like women, what I see are they're trying to make themselves smaller so they can be attractive to a man. And men are like disconnecting themselves because they're afraid of the more powerful woman. And it's like we forget together and we remember together. Because when I was like, what kind of man could fuck a goddess? And I was like, truly only a man who knows he's God, right? So we like actually have to remember together to have that kind of sex. And I think at this point we should probably, or we should try to define this divine masculine that I've been talking about. And I'd love to hear your take on it. But for me, like when you're describing those experiences, your essence is coming from truth. Like your essence is coming from source. So like divine masculine is expression of masculine that remembers itself as source, that remembers itself as the infinite. And so whatever's coming through you is true. The other side of that would be like heavily conditioned masculine. Like you're doing what you've been told. You've been doing, what your stories tell you, get you love or get you worth or get you power. And so this movement into divine masculine, it's not like when I say divine, right? Like one of the things we can misinterpret is just like holy and you're chanting mantras and wearing malas. It's like, no, it's the true, it's source coming through you as a man. It's source coming through you as a woman in divine feminine. And there is not only an incredible power to it, but a multidimensionality to it. It's also human. It's also it's full spectrum. It's wholeness, like we said. So divine masculine is not just like the sweet dude chanting who wears a mala. Like he also knows how to fuck. Like he also knows how to play. He also knows how to make money in a way that's in accordance with his dharma and his truth, right? It's like, it's full spectrum. And he's got to have some connection to source for it to truly feel divine. And I think there's also so much conditioning for men that divine masculine is this like sweet, soft hippie, right? This sweet, soft, whatever you've been told a spiritual practitioner is, versus it's your fucking truth.
I think the problem comes in the definition of the divine. If we have the incorrect definition of the divine, and I say incorrect with all softness and respect to people who I'm about to assert that their definition is incorrect.
Please comment below.
Yeah, exactly. But, my understanding of the divine, which comes not from any book that I've read or not from anything, it comes from my direct, unmediated experience with the divine that I've found through many different facets in the deep darkness of my 6-day darkness retreat, or the wild ecstasies of my plant medicine journeys, or the throes of sexuality. I've found the truth of myself as all that is. And the definition for me of the divine is the all that is the source, is the place beyond polarity that holds all of it, and is my unique self as an expression, adding my voice to the chorus of all of the unique selves together, without which any one of our voices, the divine, would be incomplete, but nonetheless comes from the source, like the roots stretch down back to the all that is, that again, that place where the demon and the Buddha meet, all of the dark, all of the light coming out and then expressing ourselves in our radical truth. So my definition of the divine then informs my definition of the divine masculine. I want to be all that is.
Yes.
All that is. And that is the lover, warrior, magician, and king. All of it.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah. And something that I've been getting deep into, have you read The Immortality Key?
I haven't.
Oh,
By Moral
so
Rescue, yeah.
good. Okay, so because what you're touching on, I've really found, which is so many of our problems as a society actually go back to our religious beliefs.
Correct.
And our religious conditioning and who and what we think God or the divine is or goddess and what we think it's not. And in The Immortality Key, it's so good. It's like an ordained, I believe, Catholic priest, never done plant medicine in his life. Hardcore, like research, like goes into like the basement of the Vatican and is basically like, look, like original Christianity was women, high priestesses, serving plant medicine to initiates so they could remember their essence as God. And that got systematically taken away and demonized throughout Europe and the Middle East. So plant medicine is now bad and demonic, and you can't have ecstatic, erotic rituals, and you definitely can't have women serving medicine.
Upside downing of the truth.
Yes. And systematically, it was like all of you, not just women, but men too, people of all genders, you are going to forget that you are the divine itself. And we're actually going to take away and make demonic the tools that would allow you to remember that. What kind of tools make you remember that you're divine? Plant medicine, breath work, ecstatic rituals, sacred sexuality, right? Sex that goes deeper than two-dimensionality. And so it's like, it's too troublesome to try and like kill off people who are remembering that they're God. You just teach them to hate themselves. You teach them to fear the tools and practices that would put them back into their sovereignty. And you definitely rip spiritual power out of the hands of women who wanted everyone to remember that they were divine. And you give it to a bunch of potentially celibate men or very conditioned men who then go on and pass that conditioning. And I think what's been so revelatory for me is in this kind of like feminist awakening, like divine goddess movement, right? That I've been such a deep part of. It's like the men forgot too. It just, their forgetting looked different. They forgot their own divinity. And that's why it's so hard. Like why, like when we're looking around, we're like, where are these kings? Where are these men? It's like their process is remembering themselves as divine, not trying to put on all the trappings of what a man looks like, but going back to their original essence of power and finding that expression there. And as you're saying, that's going to look different for every man. That's what I teach women and people of all genders. It's like, there is no feminine that you can copy. Like you have to do the work to reclaim your own source truth and what that looks like coming through your pussy, through your screams, through your essence, through all the things just emitting through your body. Like that's divine feminine. I can't tell you what the fuck it is. You have to find it for yourself. And it's the same in this divine masculine. Like every man has got to find it for himself. And I think part of the wake up is it's like, it's don't do it for women. Don't do it for getting laid. Don't do it for all these other things. Like do it because someone made you forget the truth and power and magnificence
this is your
of what you are.
birthright and it's ecstasy. To live in this state is an ecstatic state. Like you have no idea. You think you want all of these things. These things might be nice, but you can put yourself in a heaven or a hell in any situation if you're not in the fullness of who you are.
Yeah.
And that fullness, the feeling of just taking these breaths and knowing this deep ease and comfort in your own skin and that nothing is going to make you flinch, like that fucking feeling is worth it. Not for any other reason. It's worth it lishma for its own sake. It's another Hebrew word, like lishma for its own sake.
Yeah.
Not because of anything.
Yeah.
It's just worth it to know yourself as that. And I think nature is a great tool that I think we've missed as well as like our interaction with the natural world, because nature is Gaia, is the goddess, and we are inseparable from nature. So it doesn't matter if you have a cock, you're still the goddess.
Yes.
And you have to actually recognize the goddess within as expressed in the masculine form and imbued by the divine masculine essence. Yes, but still it's the goddess. This is your lover that you're in. You're embodied in the flesh of the goddess, of the lover. And then to know that, that's where the flesh can meet and that divine dance can exist. And then the energies can move through in their different polaric expressions. Sometimes, again, it's like the werewolf comes out and it's just snarls and growls and this sense of devouring. And I feel Vailana's neck just lift up like, if you want to bite my throat and drink my blood, now is the time.
Yes.
And I sniff it and I rub my teeth on it. And I'm like, I could, but not today, sweetheart. But instead, I just enter her fully in that expression. And sometimes it's much sweeter. It's softer. It's a few fingers drawing over her hair. It's the kiss, not between the press. It's the point between the pressed lips where it's just breath, and just holding, not even thrusting, just inside, holding, pulsing, sending energy. Our mouths intertwined, but not even moving. And just in that stillness, there's that expression of it. And then there's the ropes and the floggers and this whole game we play where I'm master and she's the submissive, and we go into this whole dance of intoxicating sexual theater. Sure, all of it becomes available, because when you know yourself in your wholeness, then you can just play with all of the different components, and then your sexual expression never gets stale.
Yes.
It never gets bored. There's infinite levels that you can explore.
Yes. And this is, to me, right, it exists in all traditions, but this is the heart of the Tantric tradition as well, right? Like, you knowing yourself as source being everything, full multidimensional expression. And so many people misunderstand Tantric sex as like one particular vibration or flavor, but it's really just sex as an expression of source, which, as you're saying, it's multidimensional. It's all the levels, it's all the facets. And of course, it has a higher dimension of energy and spirit to it at times, because how could it not if you know yourself as source? And it can be just as raw, just as gritty, just as kinky, just as fucked up as two consenting people want it to be. And people really misunderstand that, because it's so much easier sometimes to believe that God wants you to do something linear and scripted, rather than like God wants you to play in the deepest, fullest sense of the word.
Because you are the living expression of one facet on the diamond of God. And so if you really clarify your own desire, clarify what it is that you actually want it for, removing yourself from the pure identification with the personality construct, which knows itself only in relative position. So it isn't actually fundamentally real. It's a construct we created to navigate a comparative world.
Yes.
So you separate that and get back to the clarification of what you actually want. Then let your cock, let your pussy, let your heart, let these primordial forces guide what you want, and know that that's what God wants when you clarify all the bullshit and also all of the bullshit conditioning. Some people say, well, if I just let my cock do what I want, I do all this. Well, then you actually you're not clarified at all.
Yeah.
Because if you're actually perpetrating anything that's hurtful or restricting the sovereignty and the wellness of any other individual, you've fallen for the simplest delusion of separation, which is that you are not me living a different life.
Yeah.
And so anything I do that hurts somebody else is going to hurt me, because I'm inextricably connected to the field of all that is, the field of source. So yes, if you follow your cock and all of this and you're still under the delusion, you haven't connected to the field of source, it can be a problem. But if you clarify your mind, clarify your spirit, understand the truth, then those things can be your greatest guides. Like, what am I pulled towards? Trust the allurement, trust Eros, trust Shekinah.
Yes.
Like, to draw you forward. That's where it gets really fun.
Yes. And it's such an excellent point, because again, because we've been taught to separate heart and sexuality, there's a lot of conditioning that like, well, if I just went into my sexuality, right, and it becomes separate from everything else. Any good Tantra teacher worth their salt is going to teach you to start with love. Like, until you are in a foundation of love and nothing has to be perfect, you won't know how to express the truth of your eros. How could you? And it's so really actually like supporting people to understand that is really important, because disconnected sexuality has perpetrated some of the greatest pain on this planet.
Absolutely.
So it's not saying just do whatever you want. It's saying, no, actually, the level of self-responsibility that it takes to get into source, to do the purification, to be connected to your heart, that's part of the toll that you pay to have the privilege of walking through that doorway.
Amen. Amen. Yeah. I mean, in the lineage, they call it birur, and birur is the clarification of desire. So you're clarifying all of the different levels, seeing where there's any misalignment. And at the end of birur, you can reach a state called Retzon Hashem, which is the unmediated contact with the divine, where actually you have the right, according to the Torah, according to the law, to actually rewrite the Torah, to rewrite the law, to rewrite, because you're freshly in communication with the living, evolving divine.
Yes.
But only that can happen if you've clarified all the way and found yourself connected to source and know yourself as a unique expression of that source.
All right. I got 2 more questions before we get into the God Bomb, because I deeply want... Well, first, we've touched on it a little bit, but everyone's got divine masculine, right? Like, and in fact, my understanding is for us to be whole, like we're talking about, we have to nurture both sides, right? I sit in darkness retreats. I can sit in sweat lodges like you wouldn't believe, right? Like, I know that power in my own being, and I don't always thrive in challenge the way that I see a lot of men do. But I also need to challenge myself to know what I'm made of.
Yep.
And it is important for my feminine to know what the wholeness of her is made of, because otherwise I don't have the power to surrender. It takes such tremendous power to surrender. And we can also be meeting divine masculine in all beings, right? Like, it's something that we can all cultivate. And if we're talking man, woman, heterosexual, or some variation that includes heterosexuality, I want every woman to know what it's like to be fucked as goddess, and I want every man to know what it's like to fuck as God, and I want women to know what it's like to be fucked as a god. Like, I know there are men listening to this who have been like, I want to, like, that's how I want to be fucking, right? And there are women listening who are like, where is that man, right? Like, where is that experience? Because it's actually not so common. I feel like it exists, and we know it, but there is a process for most people to get there. So I'm wondering what you would say to kind of an everyday man who's like, I've done some meditation, but like, I still feel like my sexuality is largely unconscious and usually generated from how I masturbated when I was young, what I fantasized about, some version of pornography. How in the hell, like, what is a practical way? I know you gave us a little bit with the challenge in the sweat lodges, but in a more sexual way to go from that kind of sexuality to like, I'm fucking a source.
Well, I'll talk about my own struggles with this because that's my primary source in all of the wisdom that I've accumulated. I have lots of secondary sources. Primary source is looking within, reading the book of Aubrey Marcus. And even foreshadowing the God Bomb, it's the beauty of offering that ceremony is I get to read the book of another person. I get to be there on the inside of an experience with them and learn from that. So the same way that I'm learning from myself. So if I'm learning from myself, the place that's disconnected me from sexuality, it wasn't that I didn't understand the nature of the goddess and didn't crave it. It was that I was terrified that I was going to fall short in pleasing the goddess. I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to perform. And there was one aspect that seemed to be out of my control, and that was the hardness of my erection. It seemed to have a mind of its own. And when I would get spiraled in this kind of neurotic loop of like, what's going to happen is if I unroll this condom, is it going to still stay hard, or am I going to have to go to the second condom? And then, oh, how embarrassing. And whatever the story might have been and whatever the situation. And that for me has been the hardest challenge. It's that I want to please a woman so badly, and I'm so So kind of I've conflated the idea of pleasing a woman with erectile firmness.
Right. Which
Right.
most men have.
Yes.
Yes.
And so there's a fear there.
Yeah.
There's a fear that won't happen. And that fear will pull me out of the presence of my own sexual experience. So the work has been, and I think, you've been a part of this as well. And some of the other goddesses here in the house have been a part of this as well, is really trusting that my fuck is not dependent upon my cock, because I can count on my fuck always.
Yeah.
And if it's not dependent on my cock, I got nothing to fear. And in some ways I actually studied different, esoteric books and different guides on like how to practice oral sex and how to massage, how to really, but still I didn't really believe fundamentally that it was enough. And so I think that deepest belief that I can bring the fullness of my fuck essence, and when that is received, that will be enough no matter what. And the interesting and obvious, I think, thing that happens when you do that, well, of course, the cock is fully ready and available to be used in that, because you've taken the pressure off, right? You've taken this idea that there's a win-lose metric, there's a pass-fail grade, and you actually can move beyond that. So I think it goes both ways. I think women can help men with this in drawing that out. Instead of it being some awkward situation where both people feel insecure that maybe they did something wrong, it's like, no, let me feel the fullness of your fuck.
Yeah.
Let us be together in this and not worry about whether it's hard or soft or whatever happens. We're going to fuck no matter what, And this is going to be the thing, and this thing is going to be fucking delicious either way. And that really opens the gate to then trust yourself and then drop into the present moment and listen.
Yeah.
And really listen. What does she want? Not watch yourself I need to do this like this because that's what a man. No, listen. And then apply those subtle creative solutions to what you're listening to. What is this moment? And sometimes those things are actually quite bold, especially if you're in a power exchange dynamic and you're listening and you're like, whoa, I'm getting this vibe. That's dicey. But let's go for it, whatever. And then you hit it just right and you see the body flush and flourish with excitement. 5%, how dare you? And 95%, thank you, come fucking take me. Yes. Those moments are available when you really trust yourself and you trust yourself to be radically present.
Yes. And I love you had a quote at Fit for Service that you said that I always cited you, but I said so many times where you said, an excellent dom knows the desire of his sub that they themselves or she herself has not yet realized and gives it to her. And it was just because so many women, right? I know listening to this are I've had a guy do something to me that I didn't want, that shut me down, that was ugh. And those men are almost operating from a sense of I should do this, or I'll do this as dominance and control, but not attuned to what she wants. Right? Yeah. When you're attuned to what's going to make her flesh, what she really wants, what's going to unfurl her in ways that are deeper than maybe she herself knows in that moment, that is fucking sexy as shit. And the precursor of that, which is I learned from some Instagram influencer how to pull her hair or whatever. It's no, please stop. Please don't do that, Chad. So there's such nuance to this.
So if you actually study the brain state conditions of doms and submissives, the dom enters flow state. And in flow state, that's the same as a big wave surfer. It's the same as a basketball player that's in the zone. There's a knowing, there's a listening to the whole field in a way that's so acute that you know exactly the right move to make, the right thing to do. And so, of course, if you're doing it right, you're just in absolute flow state. And you can listen to the flutters of your own desire that meet the flutters of her desire or his desire. And you actually get to be in this really erotic dance. So I think people underestimate the power of that type of container because it's in Vailana and I, we call it the Black Sutra. We have these rainbow sutras that we go through. And in the Black Sutra, it's all about the exchange of power. and dominance and submissive.
Mm.
And every day is different.
Mm.
So one thing that was mild one day could be extreme another day. And you're in this dance of listening to exactly what the present moment has in store and being finely attuned to that experience. And it teaches you something else also about the divine nature, about the divine masculine. What will you do when the goddess gives you all the power to do anything? What will you do? Can you hold that power? Lord Acton said, power corrupts, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Well, if that were true, every dom would be a fucking nightmare. It'd be a demon, right?
Yeah.
Because you're given absolute power. Of course, there's a code word or whatever, but you're given all of that power. And then with that power, like Spider-Man's uncle said, comes great responsibility. And that great responsibility is to really listen and guide yourself on a mutual journey of Eros, where you're meeting each other. And at the end, you're both drunk and intoxicated in the ecstasy of that particular type of revelry. And it's fucking outrageous and incredible.
Yes. And it's amazing as a woman what kind of desire can open up when you're held by the masculine in that state. Because what happened was so much of even like what we see on pornography, it was co-opted of what the feminine does and desires in a deep state of true surrender.
Right.
And used on her as an expression of power when she doesn't actually want it. Right? Like, I'm going to come in her face, but she doesn't really want it. Like, I'm going to like fucking hit her, but she doesn't really want it. Right? So many women actually, I found, have shut down that level of desire and that level of surrender in them because they've seen it misused, or it's even been misused on them. Whereas like, getting consensually like slapped in the most erotic moment, right? Being choked, being like, like with a man in a flow state that I want that from because I can feel his level of flow and power. There's nothing like it in the world, right? But a lot of women think, I have to want to be choked because that turns a guy on, right? They're two vastly different states. So the invitation is really for men to be able to tap into that flow state of power and to know the difference between I'm doing it to her and I'm doing it for her, to her.
Yep.
And for women actually to, one of the things I've seen is so much of what we've been conditioned as for men is actually shit we love, but we just forgot because we forgot that state of surrender and desire, anal sex, or getting whatever, cum shot, like with the right man in the right situation. It's incredible. In the wrong situation, it's the worst thing in the world. And so it's like making our way back to a reclamation of those sexual states that have actually in some ways really sadly been used against us and been conditioned into us that they have to look a certain way where they're so hollow or dehumanized. And actually it can be an expression of some of the greatest dance of the masculine and feminine.
Yeah. I mean, I really it's one of the things that really bothers me when I see one of those men who are acting in a dom position, but I wouldn't trust them to give somebody a good foot massage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I just can't fathom how you could be good at that if you didn't have the tender arts of listening to what are the soft places of the foot, what are the places that need to be held softly, what are the places you need to push because there's energy that's held up in there.
Yeah.
So to me, it actually parlays into the God bomb, which also includes this body work, which is really the same thing in a non-sexual container where I'm tuning in to whoever's on the table. I'm tuning into what their body is looking for a spiritual cathartic release, not a sexual release, but it's so similar in a way. The only difference is that I'm emptying myself of my own sexual desire and charge. So I'm not meeting and kind of stoking the fire that might already exist. I'm just in a pure state of listening. And that I think is just an essential skill to be able to really listen. So instead of jumping headfirst into dom school, get into listening to listening school. What does each touch? How does that, if you're reading the book of your lover's body, how does every single thing that you do, and maybe a spank here, how is that received?
Yeah.
Feel the energy that's pulsing off and understand that and then start bringing out the toys and the things and the games and the scenarios.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about God Bomb. Did you
Yep.
want to take your shirt off? It's time to talk about the God Bomb.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I would like to set up the context of my God Bomb experience.
We first might want to explain why we all of a sudden have no shirts.
Well, okay.
I mean, the people are going to be like, whoa, what happened? Is there a shirt monster that came through here?
I think we'll include the part of us taking our shirts off,
Okay,
though, because
let's
it's
go.
on film where we were just basically like,
All
let's
right.
like,
Yeah, fuck it. Let's go. All right.
But just in case we need it, we're not wearing shirts because we don't want to be wearing
Yeah.
shirts right now.
We don't want to.
That's really
That's a good enough reason. We don't want to. Period.
This is just the truth.
Yeah. No. I don't want to.
I don't want to be wearing a shirt either.
Yeah.
But something was constricting.
Yeah, fair.
All right.
Now
And then
here we
I changed my bra. I was wearing my like cotton everyday bra, and I was like,
Yeah.
fuck it. I'm not doing the rest of this
Yeah.
podcast without my fucking nice bra.
That's
on.
right.
It's like, so we here now.
Right.
We here now.
We
All
here
right.
now.
So God Bomb. All right. So I had heard from Emily. She was like, yo, I did this experience with like Aubrey and I. And she wouldn't tell me exactly what it had mystery school initiation vibes to it, like all of that.
Mhm.
Something about arrows, something about this like activation. And I was like, whatever that is, I want it. So I was like talking to Vylana, and I was like, hey, I've like heard about this thing. Like, and it was like, they're like a list. And she was like, Layla, like we'll like bump you to the front of the line. And I was like, all right.
Front of the list.
Front of the list. And I was like, all right. And we worked out this like crazy date. And so Vedically, my like Vedic astrologer was like, Layla, like May 15th or something. It was like right around then is like husband season. And I was like, okay. He was like, starting then,
Wow.
you're going to like have a 2-year period. You're going to get married. You're
It's
going
like elk season.
yeah, you're going to find your husband. And
Yeah.
I was like, cool, man. And right around that time, independently, 2 couples set me up with like 2 potential husbands on this one trip. That was going to happen 2 weeks after the God Bomb. And one husband is like so famous, everyone would know his name. The other one's like so powerful, no one knows his name. And I was like, whoa, that's quite the husband selection, you know, like it's amazing. So the month ahead of time, I was like, yo, I'm going to get myself ready for this. Like, you know, it was like my own version of like the debutante ball of just like, you know, may the best man win. We're going to go on this trip. We're going to get ourselves like some epic husband. So the plan was that month ahead of time was going to be like sexy and fun and playful and all of this. I had a trip that was supposed to be like a sex witch super yacht situation in Croatia. Total dumpster fire, like up all night, managing adult children. Like it was like, and I don't preside over dumpster fires. So I'm like tired. I haven't slept. I've been in Croatia. I've been managing things that I shouldn't be managing. I'm like fucking exhausted.
Of the many things that you hold, Queen of the Dumpster Fires is not one of the monikers that goes in your regal lineage.
No.
Here is Layla Martin, Queen of the Dumpster Fires. No, that's not part of it.
I will fix a dumpster fire.
Yeah, for sure.
I will water that shit with my own pussy juice if I have to. But fire goes out around me. Like we do not preside over dumpster fires. But that one, I was like, y'all on your own.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't even want to fix this kind of thing. So like I came from that, right? Now with the invitation to the God Bomb, I was like, maybe it's a threesome. I don't know. I didn't ask any questions. So I was like, great. Maybe we're going to like turn the ship around. And before husband season, we're going to have like an epic threesome. Or at least something super fun, right? It's going to involve substances. It's going to involve arrows. I don't know what's happening, but it's Vylana and Aubrey. So like, it's going to be good, right? So I fly to Austin in that state of like, I need to recover from the dumpster fire and I need to reset before like power husband season. Like this needs to happen. So it was great because I'm the kind of person obviously who'll get on a flight, won't ask questions. Is like, great, you guys are going to give me substances. I don't even care what they are. Like, I'm just going to like lay down. And as it turns out, I ended up having the deepest, probably, I will actually say the deepest trauma healing of my entire life, far beyond anything I ever could have imagined, like truly life-changing. But we'll set the scene that I arrived to God Bomb being like, this is going to be like an amazing, enlivening, erotic experience. Before I know it, I was like,
Yeah. And what was interesting, so this was a particular type of ceremony that Vailana and I had developed, and we hadn't been talking about it. This is actually the genesis of when we're starting to talk about it. I'll be writing about it a bit in my upcoming book, A Psychonaut's Guide to Life. But we've kind of kept it a little bit secret. It's been our own baby that we've been incubating that came to us from a variety of different cues from the universe. But the core of it is the combination of two medicines, ketamine and cannabis in conjunction.
Yeah.
And it forms this unbelievable sacred handshake of Hieros Gamos. And to me, ketamine is the ultimate divine masculine energy. And it's not even like the divine masculine we've been talking about. It's like this Shivic universal energy of all the possibility of all creation and just the life force energy that's available without even having to be form. So matrix, it's like form is the mother. And this is ultimate formlessness. So much so that you would never say, oh, grandfather ketamine, like you would say grandfather Wachuma or grandfather peyote. No, it doesn't even have that energy of the masculine. And it's so removed from that. It's just the fine essence of ether and spirit.
Yeah.
And then you mix that with cannabis, which is the rich goddess. It makes all the food taste better. It makes your love making taste better. It makes the touch feel better. It makes everything come alive in your body and the somatic awareness come. And when we realized that those two things would pair together, and in the pairing of the alpha and omega, the chi was formed, which is the intersection. And that intersection has to do with the heart that is available to come through when the masculine and the feminine meet. And then add mixtures that we add that actually help to support the heart in fully unlocking. And so that's kind of the combination of the medicines that we use for the God Bomb. And then we pair it with different practices. So understanding that the body is simply the denser substrate of the heart and mind and spirit. This is the place of density that's the same thing as all of those other things. We make false Cartesian splits between mind and body, spirit and body, all of these things. But actually, this is spirit in form. And so to actually access the spirit, if you actually work with the body and bring the body into it, it's going to be even more powerful. So I was apprenticed in a particular type of body work from my brother Porangi. And this type of body work really works in a spiral around the body, really taking your time and listening to actually start to unlock what is being stored in the somatic memory, soma being flesh, the somatic memory of the body and the intelligence of the body. So we pair it with the body work, and then Vailana does her magical gift, which is tapping into the unique frequency of your soul essence and singing and playing the bowls to actually unlock that, as well as some of her own goddess magical practices. And it's both of us in this container of Hieros Gamos, Alpha Omega.
Yeah.
And that forming this place of really radical intimacy and transformation. So we started to realize how powerful this was. However, you were like number 7 or 8.
Yeah. I was early on the docket.
It was early.
Yeah, I was blessed.
Right? So one of the things that we learned is, and I think what we felt from you was this radical trust.
Yeah.
So we were a little bit light in the preparation, like preparing you for what this was. Yeah. She was like, yeah, fucking Layla, she's down. She's good.
And I was.
And you were. And so it wasn't that we were reading incorrectly, but it was that we just were like, okay, she's fully in, she trusts, and we trust ourselves. So we're going to go into this. So we didn't tell you quite as much as we would tell. And we're not like doing this for money or charge. This is like,
no, you guys are doing it out of deep service.
Exactly. Yeah. This is for our family. It's an act of love for those that we love, because we know how powerful it is. And it takes both of our time for an entire day, or at least the better part of half a day.
Yeah.
And so.
And you two gave me no sort of like sexual innuendo. It was actually, the funny thing about it was because Emily, who had gone before me, kind of ggave me like a winky, like, like that, like get ready or whatever. And I was like, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And
I was like,
and, with Emily, there was no sexual, actual part of that God bomb experience, but she was in this erotic apprenticeship with Vylana. So Eros was kind of woven in.
Yes.
And it's not that it couldn't be a part of the God bomb, but that would have to be already within a established lover container
Totally.
with one of the partners that we've brought into our container. And so that would be a whole different thing.
Totally.
But there was some ambiguity there that we weren't even aware of. But it was like, all right, well, so we didn't exactly have like the pre-meeting that would have set it up, which actually ended up being perfect.
It was perfect because this is what happened. And look, in telling the story, I realized that I would have to talk about like the deepest depths of the sexual trauma and abuse with my biological father that I've never talked to this degree before. And one of the reasons I never have is because it's actually kind of so horrifying that I haven't wanted to re-traumatize anyone. I haven't even known how to say it to the world. And there's a fine line of I've been in therapy for, 15 years. I've worked on it over and over and over again. I've spent 10-day Vipassanas in continuous flashbacks. So the level of work I have done on it means that I can hold it in such a way. But I never want for anyone who's ever experienced sexual trauma to feel like I am glossing over how much it took from my life. Because I never want anyone else watching to think like, why doesn't it look or feel so easy for me? It has never been easy. And I have taken from it what I have needed to find a greater power than I would have had without it. That doesn't justify it. But it has meant that I could take even the most horrifying shadow that can exist, one of the most horrifying shadows that can exist on this planet, and turn it into gold. And so basically what happened is and it was all perfect. And I will say, like, we're all advanced practitioners, right?
Yeah. And also I was unaware of the depth of this trauma that you had. We just never had been there in our conversations with each other. And, surely you had referenced it in certain places, but I was actually unawares of that as well.
Yeah. And look, like, for everyone listening, if you have a lot of trauma, tell everybody that you're working with, like, tell your therapist, tell your body worker, tell your plant medicine facilitator, like, really, like, as someone who's carrying trauma, it's also your responsibility to let any facilitator know. And I was able to gloss it over because I have done so much work, because of where I'm at in my process. And in that, so basically we started proceeding with the whole process. I received the medicines.
The medicines were taken. And the room that we're in is an absolute black room. It's a darked out, completely black room.
Yes. So you gave me the final medicine, and what happens, and I will say there was still this like layer of my ego that's like, want to be impressive to Aubrey and I, because in that state, right, it's like soul recognition. Like you start to see and feel each other's truth beyond any sort of appearance, right? Like you start to feel what you are. And while I've known you for a while, I feel like we've gotten closer and closer. And there was still a level of me that wanted to impress you, that wanted you to see who and what I can be in the depths of the darkness and the depths of truth. And so what happened is I took the final medicine in the dark, and it went so like everything collapsed into this epic terror. And it took me just a minute to realize that I will share now the piece of the trauma with my father. So anyone listening, be ready for that. That the worst part of the sexual trauma I ever experienced with my father was when I went to visit him when I was 7. And he actually drugged me and raped me. And I lost probably like 12 hours in the process. It was the most disorienting thing. And when I woke up afterwards, it was like he was there, and it's kind of, it's a level of fucking intense shadow and pain that has taken me the better part of my life to be truly okay from. And what I knew in a flash when I was descending into this depth of terror was, oh my God, this actually mirrors my sexual trauma. Like I just took like substances, drugs, I am now starting to pass out of my everyday consciousness. It's pitch black. And there is a man in the room who is touching me. And I actually felt such a level of terror in my body. Like my whole body went into so much terror. And I had this moment because I knew I was falling into the portal, and I checked it and I was like, okay, Layla, you have two choices. You're literally going to get up and flee the room, and Aubrey and I will love you and you will integrate from this and it will be totally fine. You will sit here and you will scaffold a re-imprint of masculine presence from the depths of your own terror, one step at a time. And my whole soul, and I think this is only something you can do in those moments on your own, and anyone facing this would have to only do what was right for them. My whole soul was like, do the second, like go for fucking gold. Like this is the opportunity of a lifetime. And I could feel your presence, and I was in so much terror, like just waves upon waves of terror. And there was a part of me that was like, fuck, I've done so much work. How is this still here? How is this still here? And part of it was legacy from my father. And part of it that I really saw that was the hardest thing to stomach was like, this is terror that is there with every man, and especially men with strong bodies. Like you actually feel this level of somatic terror all the time, and it's still so unconscious, and it is blocking you from being with like a level of man and a level of partnership that you really want to be in. And like I was feeling all of this as I like descended into the darkness. And I was like, all right, let's do this. And the gift that you gave me in that darkness, because I had a real moment where I was like, wait, I was like, you don't know Aubrey that well. I was like, what if you're in terror because he's actually a psychopath and something horrible is about to happen? And I was like, all right, man. I was like, Layla, you got to go get into Aubrey's soul, because like, surprise, I can jump into people's souls and feel them, and like, and I have an oracular nature. So I was like, jump into the center of his soul and make goddamn sure that he is pure in this moment and as a soul. Because if he's not, and you're actually getting a response to something unsafe, you're going to fuck yourself up. So I went into the depth, the center of your soul, and it was so beautiful. And so beautiful. And I knew with all of my heart that I could trust you in that space. And I felt so grateful.
Yeah.
And I did it 3 times just to be sure. After the 3rd time, I was like, this is the gift of a lifetime to have a man in this level of power, holding this level of divine masculine presence, that you can actually use it as like a benchmark blueprint to reintegrate what the masculine can be beyond what your nervous system remembers.
Yeah. And for those of you, and thank you, love. First, thank you, love. And for those of you interested in what was going on with me, I take the same medicines that you do. So I'm in the space of full openness. And it is the truth of me, the very, very truth of me. I'm not doing anything. I'm being the truth of me. And I have skills and tools that I'll apply. But really, my facilitation at that point is just be the truth of me, who I really am at the core, the core essence of myself, where I can allow the full transparency and openness. So if someone wants to look inside, I say, please come on in. Open all the closets, check all the drawers. You know, you'll find the truth.
Yeah.
And so I spend a lot of time, you know, I'm sitting, and so you're facing up. And so I'm sitting and I'm behind your head and I'm talking to you, and I have my hand in a neck cradle, and I'm gently kind of working some stress points on your neck and your shoulders. But a lot of it is just talking and allowing the energy to be felt. And until the energy's really felt, then there's the permission to start actually working the body, because it's a constant, okay, like goddess, sweetheart as Layla's body, because I know Layla as a person, but your body is your person, but it's also its own being, its own expression. And it's this dialogue. And it's like, all right, where are we at? And I didn't know all of this was going on, but I could sense that this was a time of deep trust building.
Yeah.
A time where we were actually coming into a place where we really saw each other and could feel each other. And then as you went through your process, then the green lights started to come up. And it was like, all right, let's work down the masculine line of the right side of your body, down your shoulders, down your arm, down your leg, to your feet, back the other side, then working up to the abdomen, the heart, the neck, the head, the whole thing happened. But it happened first. That first key thing was that establishing of like, here I am fully, and you opening up to that. And in those moments can never be adequately described or replaced in any other thing. Like what we were able to do there was merge consciousness. We were reading the book of each other's souls.
Yeah.
And flipping through all of the chapters, but just taking it in, not as words, but as a scent and as an essence. And that's the beauty of it. No matter if we, you decided you wanted to go on perpetual Antarctica tours, and I decided to go live somewhere in the, northernmost hemisphere in fucking Iceland or something. And we were so far away and we never saw each other. We could see each other in 10 years and still know that even if our personhood and our evolution had come, like we know each other.
Yeah.
We know each other forever.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mm.
And so what I did, and people are probably, you might be wondering, how did you know to do this, Layla? And it does come from extensive trauma work and tantra work, and all of the work that I have done is I would get these waves of terror, like just like the deepest somatic terror that made me want to scream, run, kick. And I would have allowed my body to do that if it really needed to. But I was in enough presence, which has come from the work that I've already done, and enough alignment inside to experience the wall of terror as the anchor point to my past. And I could feel this terror of the masculine comes directly from experiences with my biological father. And therefore, the terror is wrapped into my nervous system. But it's not the truth. It's not the truth of this moment, because this isn't actually the true response to Aubrey's presence and this beautiful session that's happening with Vailana there holding amazing court, right? Without Vailana's presence, I don't even know if I could have done it.
Sure.
It was like masculine, feminine, soul union, married couple, the level of presence. And she was standing guard in her own way, because that's what I needed.
Yeah.
Like Vailana takes on whatever is needed. I needed my mother to be a guardian, and that's not what happened, not any fault of her own, but that is how things played out. And so in that, what would happen is I would go through a wave of terror, and then I would weave into you and get a taste of what truth would feel like in that moment, independent of the wall of past conditioning. And as I kept swimming and sweeping through that, the moments of terror got shorter, and the moments of true meeting of you and the presence of you and your touch got longer. And so what was happening is my system was learning to recognize what was a conditioned, automatic, trauma-triggered response that felt so true to me in the moment, but was nothing but the past. And then being able for these moments to feel what truth independent of that layer of trauma would actually feel like for me. And so as I swam back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and the thing I will and could bow down to you for a lifetime was the lifetimes of work and this lifetime of work that you've done to be able to be that pillar of masculinity that like I could find truth against.
Mm-hmm.
Because anything less than the purity that you could bring in that space wouldn't have allowed for a re-imprinting of divine masculine into my nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I kept weaving back and forth, what happened was towards the end, as I would meet the presence of you, divine masculine, like it's like it revealed through my body. And everything we've been talking about so far, it was like the taste, the felt, it was like a full body, multidimensional experience. And it was like the like raw fuck of nature and like the mastery of the successful hunt and like the desire of woman or person of any fucking gender. It was raw and it was potent and it was so fucking delicious. And it had so much heart in it, like infinite heart, infinite compassion, infinite poetry, and infinite fucking like king quality to it. This like ownership of leadership, spiritual and material, that was so, it was like the golden elixir that like everyone's been fucking searching for the entire planet. And you're like, oh my God, like this is in every man. Like towards the end, when I was a little bit more cognizant, I was like, it's in all of us, but like in a man who wants to embody divine masculine in this lifetime, like there is a unique fucking dharmic alignment to that. This is in every man. And like most of them don't know it. They don't know that that's what they are.
Right.
And I was like, I mean, fucking teacher that I was like, holy shit, we must tell them. And that, it was like 20 years ago, I got the taste of divine feminine and I was like, that's what we are. We forgot. And we're running around like fucking hungry ghosts and beggars when this is our birthright. Like, I've got to find my way back to that. And then I've got to tell everyone who will listen. And then I've got to give them the map and the tools so they can find it themselves because I can't do it for them. But by God, I will hold the goddamn lantern so they don't give up before they get there. And like, I tasted that through all the work you've done, through the essence of what you are. It was like, holy, like the glory of man. And we don't know it in our culture. We only know like all the word, like toxic masculine and beta and like all derision and like just, and men having gotten disconnected and dehumanized from themselves, from their part. Like it was just like, oh, like weakened into this state of such deep forgetting. And I was like, that beauty in you that we're all so hungry for, it's even more rare than the divine feminine right now, embodied in humans. It's like missing. And my God, the planet needs it as much as it needs fucking feminine awakening.
Yeah, I mean, I one of the things that's come not only in your experience was, you know, those initial waves that you experienced as tear felt like these energies which were intense, and there would sometimes be like writhing and expressions because you're very tuned. You know, you're a tantrika. You understand how to move these energies through your body in a very intelligent way. So part of this is to just encourage as that was rising. It's not like I'm like, stay down on the table so I can finish this bicep massage. No, it's like, come on, like come to the surface, sweetheart. Like, come to the surface, love. Like, here you are. Welcome to the garden. Whatever this is, whatever expression this is, whatever unintegrated part, it's all welcome here. And I receive it without a flinch. And gradually those expressions, those waves turn from those kind of darker expressions, if you want to call it that, but that just the shadowy aspects to more elated aspects and ecstatic aspects. And the same, but the reaction is the same. It's not like, oh yeah, finally we got to the ecstasy parts. It was like, no. It's all the same. This is the essence of you and it's all welcome here. And whatever part wants to come, whether it's the laughter or whether it's the shivering, writhing terror of a snake that doesn't know what's actually happening, either way, you're welcome in the garden. And that kind of thing is, I've found that time and again was because I've worked with men and women on the table, but Vailana and I have facilitated probably almost equally men and women actually now, as far as facilitating the God Bomb. But with the women, there's a particular signature that this comes up. And oftentimes, and this didn't happen with us in exactly that way, but many times, very powerful women, they'll come to a point, and they don't have the same trauma pattern, but they'll come to a point where their feminine essence will test me in some way, and some radical expression will come out. And if you were looking from a Catholic mindset, it'd be like, that's a demon. We got to exercise that thing. Like, that is for sure a demon. They're walking on their shoulder blades, hissing. And like at one point, there was like one that was like almost looked like it was going to bite my neck. And unflinchingly, it was like, welcome to the garden. Like, welcome home, welcome home.
Yeah.
And when the masculine doesn't flinch in that moment, and the love is just steady as the sun, steady as the sun, then there's this deep relax. And then the feminine, the divine feminine, can go into full surrender, and really powerful expressions have come through, different voices, different movements. But there's this amazing beauty when you can receive the fullness of that divine dark Shakti that might come through, and just be like, welcome.
Yes.
Like be like the mountain, like that's a hell of a storm.
Yes.
And not be like, and just know that you're going to be there just as strong and the sun's still shining. Then to see with the integration that comes from that, it's a really, really beautiful and special thing. And I just feel so honored that I've been able to be in that position for yourself and for the other goddesses and gods that I've been able to work with, who've healed some deep lineage wounds with the father, with the masculine, as it relates to their own wounding on that. But it's a different pattern typically, man to man versus woman to man. But nonetheless, it's just been such a gift to my own life. And I think part of my own evolution over this past year has been from the facilitation, because it's evoking the best of me. So I get to feel what the very best of me is.
Yeah.
Because everything you're describing is me.
Yeah.
But it's not that I'm always that all the time.
Exactly. Yeah. But you can hold
But
that.
I know that that's the truth.
Yeah.
And I actually have a name for that. That's Dragonheart. That's the part of me that I actually was able to maintain it pretty consistently for about 6 days at Burning Man. It was like the longest stretch where I was like, I'm fucking right in there, baby. Like, and it's more and more present. And I think the ceremonies helped evoke that highest quality in me, which is the fullness. It's my king. And when I call on Dragonheart, I know that Dragonheart is the king of myself, and it's long live the king. Like, and all of the other aspects of myself bend the knee to the king. When Dragonheart steps forward, everything else bends the knee. All of the puerile, immature aspects of the masculine, they all bow to the king, because they know the king is the king.
Yeah.
And that king serves the great queen Shekinah.
Yeah.
Right? Like in service of the divine goddess. And that's what the king serves. And that's the reason that the king stands. That's the telos, is to bring us all back to the garden.
So what I walked away from that session feeling so viscerally is, yes, men have forgotten, the vast majority of men have forgotten that is the truth of what they are, right? Their own version of Dragonheart. But the same way that women are like crying out for like, why can't men see me as the goddess? Why can't they see the divine in me? Why can't they stand there as sunshine and mountains as I express and writhe and bring up, from the depths of my being, all that is? And by the way, we've been very conditioned to believe that that's like demonic or mentally ill, so that we're terrified of the actual portal that would allow us to express the truth of our beings and come home into our sovereignty. So it's like all these mental codes that scare us from ourselves, rather than letting us be in that space that we can co-create of true allowance. And through that, I was like, wow, like I obviously have, we could say like mega daddy issues, right? Like if we're gonna like,
yeah,
we're gonna
that's a clinical term.
We're gonna look it up in the Oxford English Dictionary.
Yeah, that's in the DSM actually.
That is a classical daddy issue right there. Woo!
Yeah.
But we've all got, what woman doesn't have some version of that? Some version of the pain of men in her life.
Mm-hmm.
The pain of the man who didn't know his dragon heart. The pain of the man who didn't know himself as divine masculine, right? From the death by 1,000 paper cuts to the fucking getting stabbed, right? Like, we all carry some version of that. And in my life, it has prevented me from doing two things. Number one, actually seeing the man in front of me and being able to see the divine masculine in him the way I want him to see the divine feminine in me. Not as some like bypassing excuse to be like, oh, you're being a fucking asshole right now, or like a total unintegrated bitch, but like see me as the divine feminine.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just know the truth of what you are, and I can see when you've forgotten. That doesn't mean I don't hold you accountable. I just know that you've forgotten rather than that you're wrong or bad or broken.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to see a man like that is so fucking restorative, so beautiful. And the amount of pain that's been caused in my own life, like what I've done to my male partners, because my embedded terror of the masculine was so deep and so unconscious, it caused me to pick fights, to be more toxic, to emasculate them, to attack them. That this unintegrated trauma meant that I could see terror and pain even when there was nothing but pure heart,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you're saying, like you're not that all the time, but in that session you could be pure heart. And if in the face of pure-hearted present masculinity, what my system generated was terror, how many of us women are doing that to the men in our lives and we don't even know it, right? Because the lie you tell yourself is, this is a bad man.
Mm-hmm.
This man is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This man doesn't deserve me. This man is doing something off, because my nervous system is saying terror, terror, run, alarm bells, right? If I can't see that as my own generated experience, then I'm going to project that onto you. So I could have a king right in front of me and I'm going to treat him like the scum of the earth.
Mm.
And I did. And I did. In my life, I have done that to good men who loved me. And there is regret and sadness and grief in that, as there should be, to do better and to know better than that, and incredible compassion for what I went through,
Mm-hmm.
and not knowing any better at the time, right? Like we all deserve that forgiveness and compassion. Coming out of that, it was like, what does it do to a man if I can be that self-responsible for my own nervous system, my own programming? And what does it do to know what every man is deep down inside, so that I'm no longer attacking him or getting into fights with him? Because I know that in those moments that are hard, all that's happened is that he has forgotten. And how many times did I forget too?
Yeah.
And it engendered a whole different level of compassion, of understanding, of forgiveness. And as I started to like re-interact with you in Milan, we had this great signal group, because we were like joking, and we were going to do like the God Bomb Yelp page, and I was going to leave.
I was hoping for a 5-star review after that.
But the cat like wouldn't leave me alone, so I was like down to 3 stars, and like whatever the snacks
true.
were like.
That's true. So fucking Cyrano was not abiding in his own dragon heart, in his own jaguar. Come on, boy. Cyrano's the name of our little male Savannah cat who just wouldn't leave you alone.
But slowly,
So needy, that little cat.
like literally 2 weeks later, right at that event, so much happened. So much happened. It's so like, and there was a moment I was on a dance floor, and 2 of like the unquestionably most like culturally recognized desirable men in the entire planet were like kind of fighting over me, and I was like, whoa, because there was a very clear knowing in the depth of my being that the new understanding of like what men are was being reflected in men understanding my worth back.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was just like, because of that conditioning, right? And when you project pain at that level, it always comes back to you, right? There's always stories that keep you locked in that level of pain. And so mine were unworthiness, not good enough, right? tore down my own beauty for decades to keep men away from me. Because if I decided that there was something so wrong with me, so unattractive about me, so not good enough about me, I could keep men away from ever getting close enough to hurt me that way again. And of course, if my nervous system is running a story that that's what the masculine is, and that level of terror is what happens when you let a powerful, loving man around you, then of course I'm going to want to push every man away to every fucking toxic story I can find in my own book. And so this is another thing that I really realized about the feminine. So much of our self-hatred and self-judgment is actually the stories that we use to push away intimacy because we're so terrified of getting hurt that way again by men who forgot. And so that level of remembering allowed me to own like a new experience of worthiness. And then it's funny, I went on a journey similar to like men who have like been like kind of unattractive and all of a sudden they're attractive. And so they like date all the models and the whatever. And it's like these like chips on their egoic shoulder. I didn't even really talk about it publicly because I was like, I can tell I'm doing something a little unintegrated right now, but I was like, whoa, check out. Like, I was like the famous musicians and the NBA players and the fucking like famous actors and like the guys that are so powerful that you can't even talk about them. And I was like, something about this doesn't feel fully integrated, but sure does feel good. And it was almost like I went through a period that was rightfully mine of like, I'm not only worthy, but I can play that level of human game. I can be that magnetic. I can be that attractive. And then beyond that, I was like, I don't want to play that game with the masculine. Like, I don't want the most powerful men in the world. I want the men with the deepest hearts of gold, whatever that looks like, the divine masculine. Yeah. And so I graduated.
Yeah. So I mean, and I remember hearing all of those stories and just fucking cheering from the sidelines, like, go, Layla, go. I remember there was I wish I had it actually written down. It was almost like a short poem, but I was talking to you about how your king was made of wood, not steel.
Yeah.
And that you would be able to rest in his kneel.
Yeah.
It was this image that came through of the king that you were attracting was on one knee holding you and just in a kneel, not the two knee kneel of like, here I am bowing in devotion, sublimating myself before you. Like, here is me as a king holding you, taking one knee in reverence to you and reverence to the great queen, but just holding. And it was this really strong image. It was like that knight that could hold you in strong arms and have his knee rooted to the ground and his head up and his heart forward. And I just really saw that for you. And then to see that like played out over your life, it was beautiful. And I think one of the things I want to touch on too is for a man who hasn't been able to access that yet, yes, a lot of this work is the self, but work within partnerships can be really helpful, and you can find a fully integrated goddess tantrika feminine to do the work to heal you. But oftentimes you're going to find somebody that's kind of close to where you're at, and you both go on a journey of leveling yourself up just a little bit, because the idea that you're going to meet this perfect person who's going to draw that, sometimes you can have an example of that. And we got to have a little taste of that in the God Bomb, where you got to, not that I'm perfect or anything, but you got to meet an archetype, and that archetype could help. And I've been able to meet other archetypes too that have been able to help me. And of course, but really Vailana and I have been leveling each other up in certain ways. And that leveling up process is part of it. Is one aspect of the feminine is to test a little bit. In my experience, it's like, hey, are you strong? And I could see the biological imperative for this and why this makes sense. Are you strong? If I push, are you going to get fragile? Are you going to break? Because you want to know that this is a mountain, that this is someone that you can trust. So in those moments of being tested, then how do you respond? How do you respond to the test? And then also encouraging those moments. It can't be all test all the time. That's tiresome. So stand up and say, listen, I understand that, you're kind of testing to see how I'll respond in this, but this is not creating a situation that's drawing me forward in any allurement. So it has to be also a combination of drawing forth with soft tenderness and inviting that type of masculinity to step forward. So it's some combination of testing and inviting. And then for a man, it's some combination of boundary, like, hey, like this doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And I see one of the harder things for me not to judge, and it's both for women and for men, is when I see somebody being derisive to their partner.
Yeah.
And undermining them. And I see that, and I've seen that, and it just bums me out. It bums me out on both sides, but it actually bums me out actually more for the person who's, allowing that to happen without standing up for a healthy boundary. I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
Like, you can't stand for that.
Yeah.
Like you have to hold your ground and say, like, that's not okay. And even with Vailana, she hadn't had the significance of your trauma, but she'd had her own trauma. So when I would see some elements come through, because sometimes there'd be wild tests where the dark Shakti would come through, and then there was a powerful moment where, she came back to apologize and said, that was awful. And I was like, no, that was awesome. I was able to withstand that deepest storm and love her anyway. So that was a test moment. But then there's other moments where it's like, she was projecting some idea of me that wasn't actually true. And so I just held up a mirror and said, hey, like, what are you doing here? Like, what's the real energy? She's like, nothing's going. And I'm like, look closer, because I'm feeling something that's a little deeper, and whatever I'm feeling here, it doesn't sit right with me, and it's not okay. And I'll just hold, like a mountain, hold that position until there's reconciliation, and have the courage not to gloss over it. So in that, we could have ostensibly been in indefinite stalemate, because that's also the part of the masculine, is to hold until actually the understanding is met. And that may be that I have my own projections, and so we'll sort that out. But nonetheless, like, hold until you actually see each other fully. And so whatever Vailana and I have worked through, there's no residue.
Yeah.
Because we've kind of worked together in both of these ways to build each other up.
Yeah. And I think that's such an important message for everyone, but especially for the masculine, because I think there's so much conditioning, but it's also in, I think, the masculine sort of inclination to always be successful, which is like, I will do my work until I can like perfectly meet the feminine. And it's like, you learn to meet the feminine through meeting the feminine.
Yeah.
And it is a humbling process.
Right.
And I find one of the things that's keeping so many men out of the level of partnership they could be in, that's what you're talking about, where you actually up-level each other, where you're actually in an upward alchemical spiral of greatness overall, right? Some like, is this terror of being seen in their pain and in their weakness and in their humanity, as though that's not supposed to be there. And I think there is also, as I've talked about the pain that so many women carry, it's a lot of pain in men of having been rejected for that, or attacked for that when they're down, or used against them in the future. And so there's this like, I will hold this pain so close to my own heart, and I will go do all the work on my own until I'm some version of perfect. I can finally have a woman truly love me, as opposed to realizing that process of knowing how lovable you are is actually through the expression of that while doing your own work, right? Like, we all have to do our own work. We can't do it all in partnership. And yet there is no other space to actually learn to be with each other in this way, except in just doing it. And that's what I learned. Andrew, because he had boundaries with me, and he was my first partner, whoever was like, this is not okay. I did relentless work and really rid myself of those toxic behaviors, really rid myself of emasculation, rid myself of not being self-responsible for my own nervous system and my own stories, like to a degree that I don't even recognize myself anymore. And so doing that work in partnership, like, it can be hard and painful, but the gift of a partner who will show up and do that work, it's like,
yeah, that's the necessity. That's the ante to get in the game, is you both have to be willing to go into the depth.
yeah,
You have to be willing to go into the abyss together, and over as many times as it takes.
yeah,
And then to really learn each other and listen, and not have a pre idea of what you think that person needs, right? It's the same with lovemaking. You know, if you go into a situation like, I know what she's going to want because I read this book, or I looked at this latest blog post on Maxim, or whatever the fuck wherever you get your. No, listen, like, go in, read the scenario. You can lead the scenario, but also read the scenario, ask questions, some with your consciousness, if not with your voice as well. Often that's helpful to add the voice to the actual question, but be in that inquisitive state. And sometimes, different responses are necessary, and feel free to share if a response is helpful or not helpful. Like, sometimes when I'm kind of down on myself and I'm throwing a little pity party, really what I want is, I don't really want Vailana to go, oh, pobrecito, and grandmother me and coddle me. That actually is like, I don't want that. What I want her to go is like, hey, still soft, but like, hey, is Dragonheart home?
Yeah.
Like where is he?
Yeah.
And what would he say?
Yeah.
Well, what's going on? I was like, he's not here. And he's like, well, where is he then? I was like, he's here. And then it's like, well, can he step forward? I'd love to see him right now. I'd love to kiss him right now. And it's like just evoking that with love, not with judgment, not demanding it, but like calling me forward in that way, to me is what's like, all right, man, you got to drop this. Everybody, she's evoked the name of the king. And in the name and the presence of the king, whatever this little pathetic worm is that's here, no judgment to that pathetic worm. It's part of me too. I am part pathetic worm. Whatever part just bends the knee and just says, all right, here comes the king, and in that presence, it's like, all right, the king is home. And it's just evoking that part forward. So that's one of the practices. So, Vailana and I are creating a relationship course, and one of the practices is going to be the coronation of your inner king and queen, and how to evoke that in your other partner so that you can call that forward with different practices.
Yes. Tell us more about that program.
Yeah. So I've been on a wild journey through relationship. I had 8 years of polyamory, which were wild, full kitchen table, open polyamory. And I learned so much, evolved so much through that process, and so much grace and appreciation for Whitney, my partner, during that period. We were blindly foraging through a forest where we didn't have a lot of guides, and we didn't have a lot of examples, and a lot of people from the outside looking in, wondering what the hell we're doing. And it was a wild and beautiful time. And I'm so grateful for that. So I've had a lot of experience in that type of container. And then with Vailana, there was something else that emerged on the other side. And that type of relationship where there's literally zero place where we're saying like, I guess this will do. It's just blazing 100%. I wouldn't change a fucking thing. And it doesn't mean it's all easy and Pollyannish and rainbows and butterflies all the time. Sometimes it's the abyss, and sometimes it's the fucking horns, and sometimes the horns make you horny, and sometimes like it's the whole thing. So it's going from the self-work of being solo to then the process of attraction and allurement and different theories about how you can become that magnetic version to your other partner, both for masculine and feminine, and then the relationship structure, your agreements, and then a 3-part model we call rolemate, soulmate, wholemate. Rolemate is the reciprocity that you have with your partner. It's the thing that's like, all right, I'm going to do this, you do this. I like this type of affection. This is my love language. This is your love language. We're going to meet each other in reciprocity. You include that and transcend it to soulmate, which is you're looking into each other's eyes and soul, and you just go deep as you can. It's just you and them, and nobody else in the world fucking matters, because it's you and your partner, and you just want to explore the inner universe of that person you love. And then you include and transcend that. So you don't leave all of these stages behind. You include them and transcend them finally to the wholemate relationship. The wholemate relationship is where you clasp hands and you look at a shared horizon and you say, what are we going to do together? How are we going to change the world, change our family, or change something, improve something, flourish in a way, and offer ourselves and our gifts to the world as two whole individuals have chosen to come together and pointing towards a common goal. And that's the stage that when you include all of those, it really creates this strong kind of unfuckwithable relationship container. And then you can step even further into that sacred union kind of bond, which is really the combination of all of these different things where you just know, like the idea, I know that everybody's like, you never know what'll happen. Best if you sign a prenup, blah, blah, blah. But there's a place actually that transcends that. And it's a place where you just know, because the wholemate aspect of who you are is so absolutely strong, and the flexibility that you'll actually evolve and adapt everything that you need to adapt because you love each other that much that you'll figure it out. Mm. Like you can get to this place where it's just rock solid. Mm. And you know for sure that this is your person. Mm. I have a funny, not a funny, but a very powerful story that happened. So I stepped into my own individual God bomb medicine experience. And this was a solo journey for me. And so I'm in my own solo journey, headphones, eye mask, obviously not getting body work. So it's not the full God bomb experience, but it's the same medicine stack. And I just felt so overwhelmingly blessed by the goddess in every form, and all of these beings just pouring divine eros through my body, just surging, healing, cleansing, pushing any kinks and swirls that were in my body out through my field. And I was overwhelmed with the blessing of it. And I just look up to the sky and my Shekinah, like, why me? And she goes, well, why not you? And I was like, yeah, why not me? And in there, I just recognized the abundance of this divine love and charge that flows through the cosmos. And there's no scarcity there. Something like, I give you a little bit and you better use that well because, I got more to give over here. It's not like cash, it's divine. And then, so I was like, all right. So I'm in this place, and then I hear the voice come back, and it's, do you trust me?
Yeah.
Do you trust me? And I go, yeah. But I was like a little bit wavery. It was like, but yeah, I didn't understand why I was getting asked that question. And again, this is my vision state, no actual voice. And do you trust me? And I go, yeah. And I said it more firmly. I was like, yeah, I trust you. Like I reached down into my core and I was like, yes, I do trust you. Mm. She's like, good. You're not supposed to be with Vailana. Mm. And I go, no. With the fullness of Dragonheart, just no. That's not true. And she's like, yes, it is. Here's the timeline. You're not supposed to be with her. And I go, I collapsed it with my mind. I just go, no. And then her voice goes, good. Now I can trust you. Mm. And I was like, fuck. And it was this crazy moment, where it was like the divine was testing me, like, how deeply do you believe in this sacred union that you proclaim? Do you really believe it? What if God herself tells you otherwise? And in that moment, I just knew. I was like, no, like I will defy you in divine. I will defy you. I will stand in this truth to the end. Mm. And that's when the divine goes, good, now I trust you, because it was like, you are me, and you need to, no reason to trust anything but yourself as connected to me through that space. It's such a beautiful experience. And I think that's possible.
Yeah.
I really think that's possible. It's possible to find that with somebody. And it may not be easy, and it's not simple. And I'm not saying everybody can find, I don't know, but I've tasted it, and I know the path that we've gone on to find it. So I just wanted to share all of that and like just offer my own journey and Vailana's journey from her perspective on what that's like. So yeah, if you're interested, aubreymarcus.com/relationship, we'll be guiding you through this whole process.
Yeah. And I do believe that while you can never guarantee anything in life, you can make it so much more likely.
Yeah.
And when I was like, my version of what you all call soul union partnership, right? Like I called it triple gold. And I was like, triple gold, or I will die trying,
Amen.
And I will do whatever it takes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I will trust that the universe will show me whatever it takes. And that's what my process was. And honestly, every initiation, every practice, and you and Vailana were North Stars for me. You know, like I when I first heard your podcast about like falling in love, I literally like hit pause and slowly pushed the phone away. And I was like, that's not real. I was like, that's not fucking true. I was like, they're making it up. Honeymoon phase, honeymoon phase, honeymoon phase. And I know lots of people did that too.
Yeah,
of
course.
I was like, I'm not gonna leave a comment, but like honeymoon phase. And I knew myself well enough to be like, you're having this response because you know it's true. And you know that you're not living in such a way where that is the most aligned reality for you. And you can keep pushing the phone away all you want, or you can take a deep breath and fucking listen and start to believe, because you know that you remember that kind of partnership is possible. You know it. And you know whatever work it will take to get there will not necessarily be easy or pleasant. And sometimes you're going to have to take a bunch of unknown drugs and lie in the dark and weave your daddy issues back and forth in tsunamis of terror until you remember the fucking truth. But like, if you want it bad enough, so help you God, like you can make it so much more likely and so much more available. And I believe that now. The process that I've done, I believe that in who I've attracted and the partnership that I'm in now. I can see that you can do the work, and the thing that drives you to do the work is the North Star of seeing what's possible, and very few of us make it through. And so having you and Vailana as that North Star is a pretty powerful, not necessarily first step, but a really important step.
Yeah, we have to see something before we believe it. And I think the way that I've seen this go, the formula is actually seeing is believing.
Yeah.
If you can't see it, you're not going to believe it. You can try real hard to believe it, but you got to see it, at least in your mind's eye. Even better if you can see it in the real, see it in the flesh.
Yeah.
Right. So see it and then believe it. And also I want to say that, of course, there was the limerence phase with Vailana and I.
Yeah.
But that didn't define the love. There was new passions that emerged and new passions that continue to emerge in this process. So it's not like we abnegated it or avoided it. Yeah, it was there for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. We were having sex in like the aisles of planes, and we were like, it was fucking wild and it was great. And right now we'll probably wait till we get to the hotel room, you know, or not. It depends on the day, you know, like
totally.
it's still alive in certain ways. But anyway, seeing is believing. And then once you belief changes the nature of reality. And so once you get to the point of believing, your belief changes the nature of reality. That's the placebo effect. That's the nocebo effect. That's all of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. That's the quote secret. This idea that if you actually pray as if it has already been done, see it as if it is already true, and you see it, you believe it, and then reality bends its way to make that happen. And that's this miraculous process. And if you do all of that, like you said, which I love, like you said, it's almost like the Spartan ethos. It's like, whatever, with my shield or on it, I'm going to go for this, and I'm going to go for the win. And if in my final days, I look back and I say, I gave it everything I could, didn't happen as I turned out, but I have no regrets.
Yeah.
Hoka, hey, today is a good day to die because I gave it everything. If you're in that place, I still think you've lived an incredibly fulfilled life with no regrets on the other side. And so be it.
Yeah.
So be it.
Yeah. Whenever people ask me, you know, how do you get to these extraordinary things? I tell myself, and I have to mean it, I will do whatever it takes.
Yeah. Yeah. And the universe will test you. You sure? Really? Really?
Yeah,
really?
you really want it?
But really though?
Yeah.
Yeah. And over again, for an entrepreneur, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
You know, you'll get something, you'll see it, you'll believe it, you'll get some momentum, and then the universe will be like, yeah, but are you really committed?
Yeah.
How much do you really want it?
And it's so important to know too that true love feels different than what we have been conditioned to believe partnership and love look like. Like it's a different flavor. It's a different process. And knowing that as well, I think helps people actually start to recognize it. Because when you're looking for something else, because that's what you've been told relationship is, or you're confusing true love with just sexual attraction or just ego fulfillment, it's like, how are you ever going to know when it's right in front of you? You don't even know what it actually tastes and feels like.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what we're offering. And I mean, it's built on the backs of so much work that so many other people have offered us, and the work that you're offering to help liberate people from the shackles of all of these ideas and constructs that are out there, and to see a fully liberated world, where there's so many amazing people. I mean, fast forward into the future, there's going to be so many amazing, conscious, empowered people who are unlocking magical gifts that are on the very fringe of what we see now, but it just becomes commonplace. Telepathic communications where you're reading and feeling energies, and you're seeing each other, and open to this radical state of love. I think the question then is going to be like, man, I'm in love with everybody. How do I handle this? There's so many kings and so many queens. What are we going to do? I don't know. Maybe we'll call Layla and we'll organize a big party and we'll figure it out on the other side.
It'll be episode 14,027 in the year 2089.
Yeah.
We'll be like, guys, how to have a relationship with all of God.
Yes.
The ultimate marriage.
Yes.
It's like polygamy is back.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Aubrey, it has been such a fucking delight. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
When you were like, I'll be your first episode. I'll come out. Let's talk about the God bomb.
Let's go.
I was like, it's happening, yo.
Yeah. Yeah, it was beautiful. And thank you for sharing the truth from your heart like that. It was deeply touching for me to hear that recounting. And I've heard it before, but yeah, just honored to be your ally in this life and every other. I love you.
I love you.
So I'm so excited that you got to tune in to that amazing conversation between me and Aubrey. I'm now going to guide you through a divine masculine meditation that will help you to connect with divine masculine beyond just the mind and to make it very real. So I'm going to invite you to go ahead and close your eyes. Let's take 3 deep breaths to center into the body. All right, and I'm going to invite you to see out in front of you. So like it's right in front of you, what true divine masculine is to you. And I invite you not to think this, but to literally feel it, like let it appear to you. See what divine masculine looks like, feels like, the qualities of it. Just let it appear in front of you. And I'm going to invite you to heal your relationship to the divine masculine by literally feeling the divine masculine exhale love from his heart into yours. Breathe in that love, inhale into your heart, and exhale love from your heart into his heart. So the divine masculine is right in front of you. You're inhaling love from him into your heart and exhaling love from your heart into his. Now I invite you to feel that divine masculine within you. So regardless of your gender, we all have an inner divine masculine. I invite you to feel the activation of your root. So down in your pelvis, your heart, and your third eye. So there's like a pillar of presence in you from your pelvic floor all the way to the crown of your head. I'm going to invite you to take some deep breaths in and out and literally feel divine masculine expression and power within you. And if you want to activate the divine masculine in your life and in your body, this is the way to do it, to literally breathe and feel yourself in your center, expressing these divine masculine qualities and energies. Now to finish, I'm going to invite you to see some of the men in your life and to see beyond just their personality expression to their own divine masculine. So maybe think of 3 important men in your life, and one after the other, see them in front of you and see the divine masculine in them. Just taking a moment to thank the divine masculine. And you can go ahead and open your eyes. And this is just a very simple meditation, but it can start to make that connection to divine masculinity more real in your life. And if you had any challenges, if it was hard for you, I recommend doing it a couple more times, and it'll start to become more clear, more solidified, and your relationship to the divine masculine inside and out will be more harmonized, more powerful, and more loving. Thank you so much for being here, for listening to this Tantric Life. Thank you for making it to the end of a podcast. That is an accomplishment. And if you want to learn more, if you want practical tools and guidance in Tantra and sacred sexuality, then head on over to laylamartin.com, sign up with your email address. You're probably like, email, what is this, 1996? Let me tell you, my emails are special. They're also so not safe for work that we send them on Sundays because they are chock full of some of the most licentious education that you are ever going to find. So I share in-depth tantric trainings, practical tools that you can incorporate into your life every single day. I also talk about really embarrassing and shocking moments from my own life as I guinea pig this entire tradition for myself in my own life. And if you want to stay connected, that is the way to stay connected. We also have incredible resources there. So if you want to learn sex magic, breath work, couple sex practices, tantric sexuality, on the website, you can get those trainings for free if you head over and check it out, laylamartin.com. Finally, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. Don't miss a single reel. That's at the Layla Martin. You can also follow me on YouTube to make sure you don't miss any of these podcasts. That is Layla Martin. And thank you once again so much for being here. I can't wait to share more with you. I'm super excited to tell you all about men's sexual mastery. This is my 7-week training for male sexuality. And I designed it so that you simultaneously get practices and exercises that change your psychological and energetic approach to sex. So you're able to become more primal, more present, more embodied, to release old stories, negativity, anything that's been holding you back from being the most exceptional lover that you are capable of being. And I combined it with 20-minute training, so a beginner, intermediate, and advanced, that you do to train in the holistic tools of sex. So you learn to use breath work, energy activation, sounding, mindfulness, and movement to train your body and your sexuality to be able to do things like last as long as you want, have multiple orgasms without ejaculation, have tantric experiences of sexuality where you go into far more transcendent and flow states as you're making love. What this does is it trains you to be an outstanding lover. Think of it like going to the gym, but for your sex life instead of your health. A lot of men are like, why would I make sex work? Or if it's not broke, why would I fix it? If you think about it, if you never went to the gym or you never worked out, you would have no concept of how healthy you could be. Most guys have never actually worked on their sex lives ever, and they have no concept of what's actually inside of them, what they're capable of as lovers. Think of how much you could gift your lover or partner if you trained your sexuality. That's what men's sexuality mastery training is all about, helping you tap into the most authentic, powerful, and true expression of your sexuality. It's such a powerful training. So if you're interested and you want to join and check it out, you can head over to laylamartin.com/MSM. So it's laylamartin.com/MSM for men's sexual mastery. I will see you in there.